You're listening to This Is My Side Hustle. The tips, tools, and advice you need to optimize your life live here. If you're looking to unlock the secrets to additional income by engineering your choices around your ideal lifestyle, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and join us as we unpack unconventional ideas and methods to give you more freedom and flexibility. Let's escape the rat race together and live with intention. Let's learn how others are making it pay with their side hustles. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 33 of This Is My Side Hustle. Today I'm going to be talking about how to organize your life with some minimalism hacks. Now, I'm probably not going to get into specific, solutions for everything because that's going to kind of vary from person to person depending on how much you have of a certain thing and how much space you have in your house and all of that. And I can't assume, what things are going to be important to you or what things aren't, or the layout of your home or what's going to work best for your family. So I'm not really going to get into that because there's plenty of ideas for things like that, such as how to organize a small bathroom or what to do if you don't have a basement or garage on Pinterest and everything. But what I am going to do is kind of take an overarching high-level view of going over the things in your home, especially this month. It's January. A lot of people want to get more organized, or they take the time after they put all their Christmas decorations away to clear out some clutter, get organized. But before you go out and start buying a bunch of bins and storage solutions and little containers and things like that, I would highly recommend you listen to this, go through all of these processes I'm going to talk about, and then see what you have left. Because I find oftentimes if we really go through every room with a fine-tooth comb or take certain categories of things such as books or clothing or toys or kitchen appliances and things like that, that once you go through and decide what you actually want to keep and what you want to get rid of or donate or sell, it's a lot easier to fit things in, and you might not need all of the extra bins or organizational tools after you've gotten rid of a lot of stuff, if that makes sense. So basically, I posted a blog post back when I first started my blog in November of 2014, so a little over 5 years ago. And I called it Learn to Combat Clutter and Simplify with the Love System. Now, this is kind of like this is definitely before the whole Marie Kondo stage and, craze came out, where she wanted people to only keep things that sparked joy. I like that system. I like some of her little hacks about how to fold clothes and things like that, even though I really don't implement it. But I also realized, when you get down to the actual meaning of joy, things don't usually produce joy. I mean, we all leave this world with nothing. We all came into it with nothing. Your possessions probably don't actually produce joy. I mean, that's not what joy is. I know what she's getting at. I know what she's saying. I agree with a lot of things she says, but there's a lot of other things I'm kind of like, you don't need to talk to your possessions and things. To me, that's just a little woo, and it's a little unnecessary too. So I kind of always take this love approach, and basically it's identifying what's important to you and then eliminating what's not. So you might have something that's important or that you need to keep, but it doesn't spark joy. For instance, none of my previous tax returns spark joy, but I have to keep those because it's just a good idea to have them. Same thing with, a lot of paper clutter, or I could go on and on. There's a lot of things that don't spark joy for me necessarily, like medicines or prescription. Well, I'm not on prescription medications, but you know what I mean. Things like bottles of Tylenol and things. But there's certain times you need to go through those things and get rid of them because they're expired. And other times you need to keep them on hand in case of emergency, but they don't spark joy because you don't want to think, oh, I need to have an ace bandage on hand or some, various over-the-counter medications in case something happens. That's what I'm getting at. So I feel like you really can't lump every little thing that you probably should organize and go through into whether it sparks joy or not. It's just not necessarily the case. So what I like to do, though, is once you've identified what's important and eliminate what's not, take it a step further by editing what is important specifically to you. So obviously you need to keep certain things that aren't important to you, but there are going to be things and categories you need to go through and realize, do I really like this? And let me just kind of dig down into this a little deeper, because studies have shown that people are happier when they spend money on or receive as a gift an experience rather than a material item. So you can't necessarily put a value on an experience, but an experience is more likely to provide joy. So most of us have too much stuff in our lives, and I think it's just really important, especially at the beginning of the year, to clear away some of your excess baggage and junk. So I like to start with one room and get rid of the clutter, junk, broken appliances or broken items, dust collectors, trinkets, basically everything. I do like how Marie Kondo says she does it more of like by category. I kind of like to do it by room. It's totally up to you how you do this. But I then organized basically everything into 3 piles. And this you've probably heard about. The number 1 is the stay pile. And I use what I call the LOVE acronym as I go through the items. First, though, if an item belongs in another room, immediately take it there and put it away because you'll get to that room later on. But anything that gets placed into the stay pile should meet these LOVE requirements. L is for love. You love everything about it. O is for over again. You would spend money on it all over again right now to have it. V is for valuable. An item that is worth a lot of money now, not necessarily the purchase price, but if it's valuable and you could sell it for money, even if you don't love it again, keep it in the stay pile for now. And E is for effective. If it's useful, works properly, and makes your life easier. So if something doesn't fit into any of those 4 categories, you need to move it to a different pile. The trash pile is for anything that's not working, not lovely, not sellable, not even worth giving to charity. For example, clothing or linens with stains or holes, food storage containers that are missing lids, outdated baby toys or products, or maybe something with a recall, expired foods, vitamins, medications. Bag these up immediately and take them to the curb. Now, with this caveat, don't just flush your medication down the toilet. Studies have shown that most city water systems are flooded with trace amounts of hormones, antidepressants, cholesterol medication, all kinds of stuff. And it's very hard to actually filter all of that out. So it's also probably not a good idea to just throw those things away. Check with your local town or city and find out when they're doing kind of a medication pickup or a prescription medication drive, or you can drop everything off and that they can properly recycle those things. Same thing that goes with, electronics or old cell phones or any kind of thing that you really aren't supposed to throw away that might contaminate things. Go ahead and do that. I would especially recommend it for vitamins, medications, and things like that, because that definitely can have a big effect. The other things, use your best judgment on what you should throw away, what you shouldn't throw away, find out what's appropriate in your city or town and do that. But anything that falls into that category, just get rid of it. I mean, don't have that stuff in your life. It's just taking up space, clutter, everything like that. And finally, we get to the sell pile. So anything that's in good condition or maybe worth something to someone else, but doesn't fit your love criteria. So if it's valuable and still effective, but you don't love it and you wouldn't buy it over again, put it in the sell pile. Because why not, sell all those things, keep that money to either save or go on a vacation or pay off debt or something like that. There's no reason why you should have a bunch of stuff in your home that's sitting there worth money and, not get the money for it so that you can then purchase things that would be useful to you now, or you do actually need, or you do actually want. So of course, I've gone over some of these suggestions on where to sell your items before, but one is Craigslist. Large, fragile, or heavy things that are maybe difficult or costly to ship, try Craigslist out. Obviously, you can also do OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace. There's so many different apps and tools and websites where you can go to sell things locally, such as furniture or, like I said, something that's just difficult or costly to ship. I definitely, and anything that would be a big ticket item, maybe, your husband or you have an old ATV or dirt bike and you have had it for 2 years and you've only used it twice. Chances are you want to sell that. I mean, it's dropping in value most of the time. And if you've barely used it or it's not useful to you and you need the garage space or the shed space or something like that, then get rid of it. Sell it. Use the money for something else. You can always buy another one if you really feel like, oh, now's the time I'm going to use that again. I always take that into consideration when I get rid of things. And I'm known amongst my family and friends for being ruthless when it comes to what I keep. There's only been 1 or 2 times where I've actually repurchased something. I don't regret it 99.5% of the time getting rid of things. If I need it again, I can repurchase it, no big deal. Most of the time though, I don't miss it because I've gone through that love criteria. Now, obviously, I've also talked about eBay, Etsy, Poshmark. Poshmark's more for clothing and makeup and jewelry. eBay is good for pretty much any kind of like non-vintage item, less than 20 pounds or relatively small that's easy to ship. Especially things like books and DVDs. Put those on eBay. I have other blogs on my makingitpaytostay.com website that you can check out. If you search for eBay, I have several articles about, how to quadruple your money in one day with eBay, what kind of things to list on eBay, how to go about it. So definitely check that out if that's something that interests you. If there's something that's vintage, meaning anything that's over 20 years old. Now, 20 years old now is 2000 and before. So anything pre-2000, so the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, so on and so forth, that's considered vintage. And a lot of people, especially now, are searching for vintage things from the 80s and 90s. They're really popular again. Clothing items, things that, bring back nostalgia for people in their 30s and 40s and 50s and so on. They're really popular, and Etsy's a great place to list things like that. The listing fees are really inexpensive. It's really easy to set up a shop and get started. And I love Etsy. It automatically prints shipping labels for you. It notifies the shipper when you've shipped. And I would put things like that on there. I would not put vintage clothing on Poshmark. I feel like it would do better on Etsy. And I don't generally recommend garage sales unless you're doing like a multi-family event where your entire neighborhood is doing it and you market it really well. Like you put it on Facebook, you put it in local Facebook groups, you put it on Craigslist. Unless you market it really well and you've got signs out and your whole neighborhood's participating, then I don't really recommend garage sales. I feel like you just don't get the return on investment for your time and the effort it takes to, set everything up and organize it. And at garage sales, people are looking for, deals on things that they don't even need most of the time. So, most people who go to garage sales, They might be looking for one or two specific things, but a lot of times they see something that, oh yeah, that's a good deal, so I'm going to buy it. Whereas if you list things online, people are searching for those very specific things because they're willing to spend more for them. They really want them for a reason. So that's kind of one of the reasons I don't recommend garage sales. But if you do a garage sale, include food and a drink stand at your garage sale. A lot of times you'll make more money on the food and drink because people get hungry and thirsty than you will on your actual stuff. I would say skip the lemonade and offer things like cold bottled water and coffee. Hot dogs and sauerkraut's a really cheap way to make some money. You could also offer some fresh fruit if people are health conscious. So whatever doesn't sell, you can eat for the next couple of days as leftovers. So it's kind of a win-win and you make money on it. Get your kids, if you have kids, get your kids to sell food while you tend to the garage sale because people have a hard time turning down children and it's just a good learning experience for them. It helps them look people in the eye, learn how to sell, be kind, serve other people. So I think that's really a good idea if you have kids or grandkids, get them involved if you are going to have a garage sale. And then resist the temptation to replace everything you've sold by going to other garage sales going on next door and, bringing home more junk that you don't actually need. So anytime you have all your unsold goods, if you decided to participate in the garage sale, just gather them all up, put them in bags, and either take them to Goodwill, or I really like Vietnam Veterans of America because I don't even need to leave my house. So I could bag up everything, go online, schedule a pickup, have Vietnam veterans come and pick up everything else, and there you go. The other thing, that kind of is a bummer about garage sales, if you live in a cold climate, you really only have a certain window of the year when you can have a garage sale. And, to me, the feeling of just getting rid of excess junk and clutter, I don't want to wait until May in order to do that. If it's January and I'm on a clutter busting mission, I want to get rid of this stuff. So remember, money is a trade for time and possessions. The less you own, the less time you spend cleaning, finding, fixing, moving, worrying about, fighting over it, insuring. I mean, there's so many things there's so many benefits is what I'm trying to say to getting rid of things. It means you spend less money even doing all of those things. I really feel like having excess junk really puts a damper on your overall mood. I mean, most of us have so many things going on all the time, so many tabs open, so many things we need to do and schedule. And the last thing you need is to have to spend an hour of your day just looking for something or fixing it or cleaning it or moving it around. I mean, it's just, it makes life so much easier when everything you have, you need, when it's useful to you, and you don't have other stuff that you don't. Now, this is really difficult with kids, especially as they get into their teenage years. My kids' rooms are not organized most of the time. We do go through every quarter and kind of get rid of things and reorganize and everything. But with an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old that are super busy all the time, it's hard to maintain on a daily or even weekly basis. So we just do it once a quarter. But sure enough, the next quarter comes by and they've got a whole bunch of junk and everything's disorganized again. And it's just difficult to keep track of. It used to drive me crazy when I would see all their room in disarray, or I would open a drawer in their desk or dresser to do something and everything was just mixed in there, but now I just learn to shut the door. I don't look. They do have to straighten up their rooms and everything every week, but I know that straightening involves shoving things into drawers where they don't belong. However, I do not care about it anymore until we come to that quarterly clean out. We spend an entire Saturday once a quarter. We go through everything properly. We put it where it goes. We get rid of broken things or things they don't want, and we do it that way. that's really good for me because then I only have to really think about it or focus on it 4 times a year. In the meantime, I just shut their door and I don't care because that doesn't really matter in life. They will eventually, as they get older, learn that, they need to do this on a more regular basis to feel good about things and to be able to find things. And I do encourage that, especially in the rest of our house. But at this point in time, I'm not gonna let that put me in a bad mood or start an argument with them about things like that. It's just not worth it. It doesn't really involve their character, especially when we do tell them once a week they do need to actually clean their rooms. And as they've been getting older, they've definitely been getting better at it, especially my 13-year-old. She's finally at the point now where she's pretty good about actually organizing things well when she cleans. My 11-year-old tends to still shove things where they don't belong, but hey, we're all a work in progress, and it's not worth it to me to get all upset about it every week. All right, the time, I talked about the money you save by, selling things or not rebuying things that you don't really need. But obviously the time spent in, straightening up your house or taking care of things that you don't even care about anymore is priceless as well. And always stick to this rule. Again, my kids aren't great about this, but I definitely stick to this rule. If something comes in, something must go out. So after you've gone through and cleaned out everything, you go room by room, you do the love system, then you can reevaluate, do you actually need more bins? Do you actually need more containers? Or do you now all of a sudden have space because you've gotten rid of a bunch of crap you didn't need? And I find almost all the time, I end up having leftover storage containers and bins rather than having to go repurchase them after I do this once a year. So I just stack them all up in my storage room in my basement. I do keep those because, sometimes you will need that for something else in the future. So storage bins, I don't really get rid of, but little containers and things like that, I do. But I often do find, like I said, that I have leftovers sitting in the basement. There's no need for me to go repurchase any at the stores. And then, if something new comes in, something must go out. Now, there are other ways to, things that you wouldn't maybe necessarily think of, like clothes or appliances and prescription medications and things like that, or, old over-the-counter medications or crutches. There's so many things that we just hang on to that we really probably don't need, or we have multiples of, or we haven't used in a year or two. If you haven't used something in a year or two, you don't need it. Okay? Like I said, if the occasion arises where you need it again, you can always go purchase it, have the time at a thrift store. So it's really not that big of a deal. And there are things though, like digital solutions for paper clutter. Okay. I know, you've got to keep your tax records on hand for a certain amount of time, but everything else, my kids bring home papers from gymnastics or school and things like that. I do put them in folders if I feel like I'm going to immediately need it or need it in the next month or two. But most of the time, I use my Dropbox app on my phone, and they have an option on the Dropbox app where you can take a picture and it scans it and automatically puts it into Dropbox, and then I can organize all those folders in there. So if I do anything like that, like I think maybe I'll need this long term, but I really don't want to keep the piece of paper, I do that. And I have a business subscription Dropbox because I do run a business and I have tons and tons of stuff in there that I need for my business, but I do that with paper clutter too. I also have one folder in my office that says coupons and promotions. And I go through that once a month and I throw everything out. So if something comes in the mail that I think, I might be, let's say, an express coupon or a coupon to Subway or something, and I think, well, we're going to be at a gymnastics meet. I might want to hang on to this. I'll put it in there. But then I set one day a month, and I have it in my Google Calendar to remind me. Once a month, I go through and I just throw out everything that's expired that I didn't use. Most of the time, I don't use much from there, but every once in a while I do. And it's a good way to keep all of those things kind of top of mind. and a place for all of them. I just have, like I said, this one folder in my office where I keep stuff like that. Same thing with photos and everything. I used to, back in the day when my kids were little, I would upload all my photos to a place like Shutterstock or Snapfish. But now I just keep everything in iCloud. And iCloud automatically backs it up because I don't have a separate camera. I use my phone for everything now. I do not get photos printed anymore again, just because I can go back on iCloud now, or the older photos on Snapfish or Shutterfly or any of those types of sites, and look at things. And some of those sites will start charging you a fee, whereas Dropbox doesn't. iCloud, you might have a $3 fee a month just to back things up anyway, which I do, but I don't print photos anymore. Also, DVDs, VHS, CDs, cassettes, all of those things, let's say they were home videos and things like that, I would highly suggest sending all of those types of things in to a place that gives you digital versions in the cloud of them. We did that with our wedding videos. We did that with like all of our home videos that we now have digital copies, so we can just log in and stream something directly to our TV. We don't have to keep a hold of all of those different things. Same thing with old movies and old, albums and stuff. If you can listen to something on Spotify instantly, why would you, hang on to an old CD that's probably scratched, or cassette tape or whatever? Also, old movies and things like that. Most old movies you can find for free now, or you can easily stream from some kind of subscription service that you probably already have, like Netflix or Hulu or any of Amazon Prime Video, any of those. Unless you are dead set on keeping something because you watch it frequently and you can't find it anywhere else, then get rid of everything else. Sell them, though. I do recommend selling those because a lot of people like having hard copies of things. I know that I saw a show once about people who lived in Alaska. It was some kind of a series my husband and I were watching together. I don't even remember what it was called. But the people in Alaska, a lot of them live in extremely remote areas, and VHSs were like a hot commodity. And especially in the winter, when they didn't get good internet service or didn't have internet service, they would go to like their local dive bar or restaurant and trade with their neighbors of boxes of VHSs, and they would look online for lots of VHSs. I think that's kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of old-fashioned in a way, and I thought it was funny, but I was like, well, I mean, yeah, like I can see needing that if you're in a situation like that and you're out in the country and you want entertainment for the winter and you can't stream anything. So it makes sense. So you definitely still can sell those types of things, but I wouldn't put it on Craigslist if, you do live in an area that's not remote. But if you do live in an area where they're hard to come by and it's hard to find entertainment and just some fun and things like that, then I would just put them on eBay. So hopefully some of these things help you guys. I will link to this blog post I was talking about. I'll also list, some of the various places where you can list things, any other ideas I come up with, any other services I find that I would recommend for transferring things to digital copies, anything like that, I'll list it. I definitely feel like it's made my life a lot easier. I've always kind of been like that to begin with, though, but I feel like there are just so many things now that are easier for me to find, easier for me to not have to deal with than if I had a bunch of other stuff that I had to deal with all the time. And I know that, like, me personally, it stresses me out. Now, there are specific things where I would say it's okay to, maybe have a little more of something than you actually need. If it's something like a hobby or something you really love and you do it a lot and you enjoy it, if it's an old hobby that you really haven't touched in a while, like let's say crafting or knitting, and you used to do it 10 or 15 years ago, but you just don't do it anymore, get rid of that stuff. But if it's something that you're currently doing and enjoying, don't feel bad about having, a little collection of things that involve that hobby. I definitely would say if you're really into something and it brings you joy doing it, and you've got a reasonable amount of things that you use on a consistent basis, don't feel bad about that. Don't get rid of that if it really does, make your life better, or it's just relaxing to you or something like that. But if there's stuff that like you're not using, you're not doing anything with, start small, start with one room and focus on that. I do have one area in my house where I store everything that I have for sale. So when I'm listing things on eBay or Poshmark or whatever, I put them into bins in a corner of my office, because I push things through, sell them quickly or donate them. I don't really hang on to them waiting to sell them or waiting to donate them. I do it then, so if you're going to do this, do it, don't get rid of, or don't put everything in your sell pile and your donate pile and your trash pile and then just hang on to it for a while thinking you might change your mind. Don't do that. Make a decision, act immediately, get on it right away. Otherwise, it's just going to find its way back into your house and it's going to be wasted time for you. So I hope some of these tips helped you guys. If you're in an organizing mood, I always am in January. I'm the type of person who takes down all of my Christmas decorations the day after Christmas. I see a lot of people on Instagram saying things like, "Oh, I'm so sad to take down my tree and take down all my decorations and everything." And I'm like, "No way, we're done. I'm wiping my hands of that. I am taking all this stuff down, putting it away." And when I do that, I also do reevaluate. I basically put all of my stuff in my kitchen, all the ornaments, everything else, and I say, okay, do I really love this? There are a couple things like ornaments that my kids make every year at school and they hang on the tree, and when we take them off, I'm like, do you really want this? Because they're usually junky and crappy, and they're like, no, and we toss it. But there are things I will never get rid of. My great-grandmother's Christmas village, that she used to have a ceramic shop and do ceramics, and she did them and made them, and my grandmother let me have them. That's something I will never get rid of. That's a family heirloom, and I love it. It's actually the kind of biggest Christmas focal point that we have in our house, other than our tree. And then every year I'll take stuff down if anything's broken. My kids often break their nutcrackers that I used to get them every year, and if it's not fixable, we just toss them. I mean, it's not a big deal, and they're not emotionally attached to them. So I'll go through things, and every year I usually whittle it down a little more and a little more. And I also feel like I have relief when I put everything away, because the visual clutter just bothers me so much. So I'm that type of person, and I love in January to just go through and do the same thing, swap things out, make room for new. If I'm planning on getting something new, if I'm planning on getting a new coat or a new dress, then I pick my least favorite or my least worn item and I get rid of it. I sell it or I donate it, depending on the condition. So definitely, I hope some of these things helped you guys. If you want to be a guest on the show, if you have other tips and tricks like this that can help make people's lives easier, or if you've implemented any of these things and found it to be life-changing or downsized and you now feel freer, be a guest on my show. Go to makingitpaylifestyle.com/voicemail. I'd love to chit chat with you and talk about it. And maybe you can give the other listeners some tips. You can find me on Instagram at makingitpaylifestyle. This is also a good time if you're looking to save money this year to sign up for my 52 Tweaks a Week challenge. You'll get an email every single week with different things you can do and implement to save several hundred to several $1,000s this year. So go to makingitpaytostay.com/save and check that out. Like I said, it's a great time to get on the bandwagon again. And if you've signed up for it in the past, when you get to week 52, I highly recommend you go back and sign up again, even if it's with a different email or something like that, and kind of restart the process so you start getting those emails again. That's been really helpful for me. I kind of sat down when I did that in one fell swoop and made all the emails. And I signed up so that I would get them every week. And every week I'm like, oh, I've got another tip I forgot about and I need to revisit this. So it's a great kind of challenge and a way to keep you on track the entire year, or give you ideas to save money every single week for an entire year. Also, if you would please subscribe or leave a rating and review, every little bit helps. I really want to reach more people this year. I haven't really done a lot of marketing last year. I was more focused on just getting the podcast recorded and edited and published every week. But I probably will be, maybe marketing and reaching out on different channels this year. Maybe doing some other collaborations. But whenever you subscribe and you leave a rating and you leave a review, it enables all the algorithms to show more people that are also interested in these things. And I know that I subscribe to multiple podcasts about things that I'm interested in. I don't just subscribe to one. I have several in different categories, and I subscribe to all kinds of podcasts. But I always try to leave a rating and leave a review, because then I know, if I love this podcast, I want other people who are also interested in these things to discover it. And it's just an easy, quick way to help me out. And I would really appreciate it. So thank you all for, sticking with me, listening to all the podcast episodes, all your support over 2019. Here's to a new year, new topics, new stuff. If you have a topic that you want me to cover or look into, leave me a voicemail at that makingitpaytostay.com/voicemail website, or you can always shoot me an email, sherry@makingitpaylifestyle.com. There's a contact form on my website. Just tell me what you want to hear about, what you want me to talk about. There's a lot of things that I have experience with or opinions about, or secrets to share, or whatever that maybe haven't come to mind to me yet. I try to do a brain dump every year and go over different things I want to do blog posts about or podcasts about, but I'm sure that there's things that I'm missing. So if there's something you want to hear about, definitely reach out. I'd love to hear about it. All right, guys, until next time, this is my side hustle.